Hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey Jason, nice to be here.
Always easy to remember your name.
For sure. Yeah, we're on a lot of those meetings together. So.
Yeah, so Jason, I want to talk to you about what happened with Kraft and their executives where they were charged with white collar crime. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened in that case?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The SEC's got an order out on their website, and it was fun doing some research for this interview, going to the 10K of Kraft Heinz. So basically, to kind of give you a history, in 2015, Kraft Foods bought Heinz, and they reorganized. And then as part of that process, one of the things that they got in trouble with later was dealing with purchase acquisitions or purchase contracts. And so if you've ever seen that movie about Enron, the smartest guys in the room, where that scene where Andy Fastow is like, yay, we got mark to market. That's basically what happened here, but not on the revenue side, it's on the cost side. So they had some contracts renegotiated. Then lo and behold, they took all that cost savings up front rather than over the life of the contract. And that's what they got in trouble for.
So why did the SEC exactly have an issue with that?
Well, first, from a gap-based perspective, that it's you book revenues when incurred, or excuse me, we can cut that out. We book revenues when earned and expenses when incurred, right? So we've got this contract that saves a little bit of money over a long-term period.
Right.
Then you shouldn't take it all now. And so what they said was that maneuver, that technique, whatever you want to call it, saved them $50 million of income, or like expenses. And so that artificially inflated their EBITDA, and as a result they agreed, without admitting or denying any liability, that to pay $45 million of penalty. And that was just last month. This is September. So
I mean, the long and short of it, they're always trying to make their numbers look better, right? But the truth is, it really wasn't a savings over a month period or in a quarter period. It was over the term of the contract, and that's where they kind of ran into problems.
Right. And it's in auditing, you have tests of transactions, you have tests of controls. So it just means that the controls weren't managed effectively, such that this could slip through. And as you can imagine, this is a company, I believe they did, like, I forget the revenue number, but it's in the billions, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's a material misstatement on the financial statements. It would have a material impact on the financial statement.
And I think when you usually talk about these two companies, we think about different sauces or different foods that they provide, but there's actually a large variety of goods that they provide in terms of in the food industry.
It's an amazing, as I was saying, I was researching this. So not only Kraft and Heinz, but there's Oscar Mayer, Velveeta, Maxwell House, Jello, Kool-Aid. I mean, it just goes on. Ore-Ida, So yeah, this is a big company that's got lots of stuff going on.
And I think originally too, that was one of the reasons why this acquisition was something that was reviewed, because they do own so much of the market share.
Yeah, and in that SEC order, it does get into, like, yeah, this was going on right up before the merger. So like they figured out a way, like, hey, if we restructure these agreements, then that kind of accelerates some of the cost savings, and that just perpetuated after.
Right. So Jason, tell me just a little bit about kind of what exactly you do and when are people hiring you?
Yeah, so I'm a forensic accountant. I work at J.S. I'm a senior vice president. I describe it as, like, I find the money that people try to hide. So sometimes that's in, a fiduciary kind of case where, somebody was violating that, the responsibilities. Sometimes that's in a criminal sort of case. Sometimes it is as part of evaluation, how much discretionary spending went through the general ledger, and then quantifying that. So lots of different reasons why people need folks like us, but generally it's in a controversy or a litigation type proceeding.
I mean, that's a great point. So say if there's two business partners, one thinks the other one's doing some weird stuff, and we have some books, and you're really the person that goes through those numbers to kind of find out the story behind them.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of times we get the client will come to us and say, hey, I've already quantified it all you got to do is just testify to it. Well, you may be 100% correct, but it's not my work, so I still got to check everything at a minimum. But I've seen a lot of these spreadsheets and handwritten ledgers. Like, you have to do it again because a lot of times the math is just wrong. So.
Well, that's why I love your attention to detail, because when we retain you in terms of our cases, in terms of what I call the criminal world, we really look at the amount of loss, right? Because that essentially drives what the ultimate penalty can be. So that's a really important thing, is the amount of loss that's actually what the government is claiming is actually accurate.
For sure. That tax loss, like, there's different breakpoints. So somebody that steals under $500, okay, not even a slap on the wrist, but then what's the next breakpoint? 25,000, and then 100,000, and then 250. So yeah, once you hit those tiers, any loss over and above that amount is going to trigger some more time, or some more penalties. So, yeah.
I think people are like, well, if you stole money, you stole money, but it's sometimes not that clear, right? Especially with some of these federal cases that we're working on. Yes, sometimes you get the embezzlement case that maybe they took $1 million, they wrote a check in their name, and it's kind of clear in terms of what the exact value is. But with some of these complicated fraud schemes, it's not really a dollar for a dollar, because it's some of it kind of actually went into the company and they're taking a percentage of that in terms of like a fraud, a theft, a scheme. And that's kind of what you're good at deciphering, is figuring out where the money went to which area.
Exactly. I mean, there's forensic accounting is a big umbrella. It's got lots of things like, say, damages as part of that, or, like it could be something as simple as certifying an election. But yeah, under that forensic umbrella, quantifying, well, it's really like gathering, analyzing, interpreting, and then communicating the results of that. But it could be like in Crafts, like, well, how much did the stock price stay elevated because they didn't report things correctly? Or in the case we were talking earlier of Spine Frontiers, that was clearly a pay-to-play sort of situation. We will pay the doctors to use our devices in the form of like consulting fees, or what the DOJ says, like sham consulting fees, and that one's ongoing. So just more of say that's a ongoing investigation, but it is a Massachusetts company, so it's relevant.
Right. So another thing I wanted to ask you about, I'm not sure if you ever had a Halloween growing up as a kid and you dressed up as a forensic accountant, maybe, but say if you didn't, that was never a thing for you. What got you into forensic accounting?
Yeah, as much as I'd like to look like Ben Affleck, no, I'd say for me, it was, I appreciated the logic of how things fit together. And especially, as I said, I do some valuation where there's what we call like the soft underbelly, company specific risk. You're going to put a number in there that you can't find in a book, and you really have to just defend based off how well you're able to, do the diligence on all the other areas. But in forensics, you either took the money or you didn't. It's much more cut and dry. And so from a practical perspective of going to trial and saying yes or no, like, it's a much stronger argument. Say, hey, I see $200,000 coming out of this account, and guess what? It shows up in the personal account as a deposit. A lot of those cases don't go to trial, quite frankly.
Yeah. So, we'll definitely want you to come back to talk about the medical kickback case, because we do see a lot of those types of indictments in Massachusetts, regardless if it didn't happen here or not. But the case that you talked about, actually, that company was in Massachusetts. So let's hold off on that and get you back to talk about that. But my final question, and probably the toughest question, is we have Halloween coming up next month. What's your favorite candy?
Oh, my favorite candy, Kit Kat for sure. Yeah. I don't do hard candy, but put me in front of some chocolate, it's just going to disappear. So
that's fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on today. Let's have you back again soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jason.